pull that up, don't you worry.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Nice to see everyone. Pretty much going to get right to it to a certain extent. I'm going to, the verses are up here so that people can see them. Again, it's nice to see people opening their Bibles, marking these pages. I will say this, Matthew and Mark, the verses that are up there, you don't have to turn to both. One of them is going to cover what we want to cover. So that'll make your load a little bit easier. But we do encourage Bible study during the week. So you take these things home and you use them. First thing I want to say, concerning what we're going to talk about today, I think a lot of us can admit, or maybe we should just admit or know the fact that we downplay what God's Word says. We downplay it. We downplay God's Word in our lives. We downplay it when we read it. We don't take it to its full extent. We don't get the full meaning without praying when we're reading. I think some of the problem that I'm going to bring up today is you have a lot of people, they have certain things up here in their head, they don't have it in their heart yet. It needs to go from here to here for us to actually get what God's saying. And what I'm going to do, just to point that out, is before I go to what's up there, I'm going to be looking at the fact that, actually I'm going to start in Matthew chapter 5, actually. When we look at the Beatitudes are the opposite, that they turn upside down what our way of thinking is. In our way of thinking, we think things would be the opposite. And we actually don't get it sometimes. But actually the reason that I am going back to chapter 5 even, is just to bring up a few things. A lot of people feel that they follow the 10 Commandments, don't they? We feel that we're doing what we should be doing. We're good. But see, here's what I would say sometimes the problem is, and people they either can downplay these commandments, or like the scribes and the Pharisees did, they add all kinds of rules to them. Which we're going to touch on that later. For example, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 21, see, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of judgment. Well, how many of us would say, I've never committed murder, so I'm good? But see, we have to go further than this. In verse 22, but I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother. It takes that commandment to a whole new meaning, doesn't it? We see a whole different side of this, and see, this is where people got. To me, when I read certain parts of the Bible, I think people have the carnal side of it. They don't have the spiritual side of it. They're looking at the low end of it. Same thing with adultery. In verse 27 of Matthew 5, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So you see, any time that we lust after something, any time that we've coveted something, and how many people think that they've told nice little white innocent lies, and that's okay. We can justify, or we try to justify, a lot of things that we do. And we'll look at the 10 Commandments and we'll say, well, I follow them, so I'm good. But in all reality, most of us have broken more of those commandments than what we would like to admit or realize. Now, when you realize that, see what we're supposed to be doing, everything goes to a spiritual level. I've pointed out in numerous messages that some of the things that are going on in our physical life, there's a spiritual side to that. There's a spiritual side to a lot of what we read, and people that are just going through their Bible to read it, to get memory verses, they're not getting it. And what I'm going to say is we have a lot of people that know their Bible, they can recite certain parts of the Bible, and they're still not living by it. I think we have all found it easy to, it's easy to say and hard to do, right? And we find that out in our own walks and in our own time that we're supposed to be spending with God. The last thing we're going to point out before I get to the verses that we have up on the board. When we are looking at prayer in chapter 7, where it tells us to ask and it will be given, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. Towards the end of that part, in verse chapter 12, it says, therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. That's very interesting. And we're going to look at the greatest commandment. We're going to look at it in Matthew. We're going to look at it in Mark, Luke, and John. The greatest commandment. And we're going to do that for several different reasons. And, we want to make sure we're not downplaying anything that we're told to do. We're told that we are supposed to love God with all of our existence, all of our heart, all of our strength, all of our mind. I'm going to say the first failure is when we can put them in a box. When we make the rules, when we decide how we serve, at that point in time, you are being your own God. You're not treating Him like God. A lot of people will say, I believe, or, I love God, He is God, and I don't think they really realize what that is supposed to encompass. We are needing, if He's God, how about we treat Him like that? How about we treat Him like that in our life? And I'm going to say this, and I've said this before. We are in a 55 and older community, a lot of people on a fixed income, so we never pass the plate around, right? I've said that before, right? So most people are on a fixed income. I'm going to say this, and I've said it a couple weeks ago, I'm going to say it again. If there's one thing you have plenty of, there's no shortage of that you have, is time. And when you have so much time, guess what? You are without excuse. When you're not reading, when you're not praying, when you're not serving God, you are without excuse because you definitely have time to do so. We all do. But instead, how often do we give God little portions of the day? We give Him a little bit and we say, hey, I did what I had to do today. I read a couple chapters. I even prayed. I'm doing pretty good. You put a gold star in that little refrigerator you have in your head, right? Maybe give yourself a Cheerio, look at what I did this week. Lord, look at how much I'm serving you. Yeah, so little is what we actually do. And we have to remember our righteousness is like filthy rags. And the Bible says that for good reason. I said something Wednesday night, and I can't get this out of my head. I said it, it just popped into my head. I think God put it there. I'm going to say something I said on Wednesday night. I think some people go to church to avoid God. Boy, that sounds off, don't it? It sounds off. But people actually do that. See, they're not intimate with God, so they check a box off. They're not doing these other things in their spiritual lives, so we check a box. We go to church. We avoid God by going to church. We don't have to pray today. We don't have to read today. We don't have to be intimate with Him. Hey, I'm going to church tonight. Some people go to church to avoid God. I hope I've explained it so we all have a clear understanding of it, because that's what the truth is. We're serving by going to church. So there's other things we can skip that day maybe, right? I don't know, when I was younger, you had leg day, you had arm day, you had shoulder day when you would go to the gym. And I think we skip a lot of things. The closer we get to His coming or our death, we should be really exercising some things that we leave alone. We should really be using our spiritual muscles. You know, and I've got to say this, I'll say it over and over again because I want this to be embedded in people's head. When you go through struggles, when you go through afflictions, they help you grow. So we shouldn't be trying to avoid them. And we shouldn't take them the wrong way either. There's something we can get from everything. When we have that attitude, knowing that there's something from God in everything, or we try to get something, we try to draw that out, right? Sometimes that's what we need to do. We're supposed to ponder. We're supposed to meditate on things. We are supposed to be looking at the spiritual aspects and the benefits of these things in our lives. But as far as the Ten Commandments, like I said, we downplay parts of the Bible. We don't think or we don't realize that committing, see, we look at the carnal side of it, don't commit adultery. Well, there's also a spiritual side of that. Same thing with murder. Same thing with idolatry. There's some place that maybe some people have never gone to and realizing there's a spiritual side to all these things. And so we downplay it. We get desensitized to what it means. Love is such a watered down word anymore. I think people don't even know what it is. Because it's so watered down, because people love everything. They love this. They love that. They have all these things that they say that they love. And I'm going to say this. Years ago, I did a sermon. I gave people a challenge. Don't say you love anything or anyone unless you are actually showing that love. Because love is a verb. It's not something we say. It's something we do. Love is something that is expressed. We want God to love us. And sometimes when we're going through bad things, we don't think that He does. We think we're getting shortchanged. But yet He loves you enough to wake you up. Like I said, the mercies and the graces that we get every single day are new. And sometimes for someone like me, that bothers me. I'm getting new graces today, new mercies today, but I'm still the same old Mike. And sometimes that's where we need to be at, because we don't want to be the same tomorrow for God that we were today. If we are not trying to grow, we're not trying to change, are we doing something with that love and that mercy and grace that God gives us, or do we just want to keep bringing that in? We want to keep experiencing it, yet not have the gratefulness that we need to understand what God actually does for us every day and realize how much He loves us and the opportunities that we have. The greatest commandment is the reason I wanted to talk about that today. Because I think that's another thing that is downplayed. I think it's another area of our walk that we could be doing better, but we don't. And this is some of the things I say today are going to be valid for a lot of people in this room today and across many churches across this country. Because we have our own standards. We have our own things that we think of. I can't ever say this enough, we have tons of time. We have a buffet of time. We give God crumbs. We give Him the leftover bits of our day. Instead of praying without ceasing, well, we find if we get a little spare time, we'll pray. If we get a little spare time, we read. If we get a little bit of spare time, we will serve God. God gave you a lot more time than that. The greatest commandment surpasses all of them. First one we're going to look at is Mathew chapter 22. Mathew chapter 22. Now see, the scribes and the Pharisees, they had been questioning Jesus. See, if there's one thing Jesus had no shortage of, is people trying to test Him, trying to find fault with Him. And you know, the enemy does that with us too. We have people that do that with us as well. They're going to look for the fault. They're going to look for where we're wrong. They're going to look at things we do as an excuse to deny Christianity. And that's why our job is so important. If we say we are a believer and we're a hypocrite, there's a problem. We don't give anyone reason to serve a God that we seem to neglect ourselves. We neglect Him. So, and when we do that, we are not passing on to somebody else that light that's supposed to be shining from us. When the Pharisees heard this, because He just silenced the scribes or the Sadducees, because the Sadducees only believed in the Torah, the Pentateuch. That's the first 5 books of the Bible. That was the only thing they believed in. They didn't believe in anything further. So they didn't believe in the resurrection. And apparently they didn't know their Torah very well either. And sometimes that goes for us. How well do we know the instruction manual? I don't know. It depends on how much we neglect it. But He just silenced the Sadducees. Well, now, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, see, if they had one common goal, it was their hatred of Christ. If they had one thing in common, they would get together to try to discredit Him. We're going to have the same thing. People are going to look to discredit what we do or who we claim. We don't want to make it easy for them. Then the enemy wins all over again. In 22 and 34, but when the Pharisees heard that He had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. Then one of them, a lawyer, asked Him a question, testing Him, and saying, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets." On those 2 commandments, that encompasses everything that's in the 10 commandments. Everything. The 10 commandments were given so that, it was an example of having morality in society. It was morality in your culture. The 10 Commandments was something so that people would know how to treat each other. I'm pretty sure that we all see how much counterfeit stuff is going on in this world today. They push, and some churches are accepting what people say just so they don't seem to be in too much disagreements. And I'm going to say this. When we start condoning what society does, when we don't want to speak up, we are endorsing it. We are saying it's okay. And at what point does the church stop saying, oh, this is okay? At what point does the church stop condoning bad behavior instead of bringing it in and having people that do these things, that practice these things, they put them in leadership positions to satisfy people, the church, and they call it progression. God has been the same since the beginning. He's the beginning and the end. He does not change. The problem is we think change is good. We think that the church is supposed to progress. No, what the church is called progression, when they play that, they play the music people want, they have to have 2 services on Sunday mornings. So they can play the music that the older people like and the music that the younger people like and get them all coming to church. That's the beginning of what I would say is complacency. We are teaching people, we want to make sure you're comfortable. It's not so much about God as it is about the music or what you want to hear. And sometimes for a lot of us, we are going to find out that serving God means there's things we don't want to hear, much less we don't say. It's nothing but a weakness. What are we saying about God when we stay quiet on the issues? What are we saying to Him? How are we setting the example when we say everything is okay? I'm going to say this. The marriage in society is so screwed up anymore. It has not been what God has wanted it to be for a long time. They have taken being sacred out of marriage if they've done anything. That's just one of the examples I'm going to look at. It's not sacred to people anymore. Once we allow other things to describe what God designed, the devil gives us a counterfeit and we follow it. I'm going to say this. A lot of these shows, how many sitcoms was the man passive? He was passive. The women ran the house and controlled him. And he sat back and he took it. The devil loves passive people. He loves that. He loves it when you don't want to stand up and say anything, because as soon as you do, you're going to be criticized for it. He likes it when the relationship between the man and the woman is broken. That's what a lot of these shows were doing. They were training people on how to not act when you're married. When we don't remember the foundation of things, we're never going to get it right. We forget. And then we justify it on top of it. There's a lot to be said in that. That's just one area. That's one small area of culture that we don't speak out, and so therefore we endorse. I'm going to say some things today I know is going to ruffle some feathers. Why are men and women's sports? And why is it that the feminists don't even say anything about it? Where are they at? Why are they silent when this stuff comes? Why don't people say anything? Male and female bodies are different. He has an advantage. When he can't make it as a man, he becomes a female and steals their scholarships, their trophies, their rewards. He steals everything from the woman because he can't hang with the men. Oh, I'm sure that's not going to be well liked. Well, how about you stay where you belong? If you were born a male, you should be playing male sports. If you can't hang, go play chess. Don't get into women's sports just to take their stuff. It's stealing, and no one says anything about it. And now we have the new thing, the new craze, where so many people, they're so proud of their transgender kid. Oh, they realized when they were 3 that they're actually a woman. Oh. Now, I got to keep my language in check when I think of these things. I do. How do we do that? How do we justify it? How, as a parent, can you say you've done anything right when you endorse it? And I've said this, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to say it now. See, kids love attention. Common sense would tell you that. As a parent, you know kids love attention. They don't get enough attention at home as Harry. Right? They feel neglected maybe as Harry. But then they learn if they are Harriet, they're being applauded. They're getting all this special attention. They're told how everybody's so proud of them because you went from Harry to Harriet. You know, something's off. And too many parents condone their kids' behavior to the point where the kids don't learn nothing. Nothing. When their kids do wrong, the parents are trying to justify their actions instead of, see, if one of my kids was in jail, I'd be telling him, what'd you do, boy? What'd you do? I wouldn't be, it's not your fault. I wouldn't be going to the media and saying, he did nothing wrong. No, I'm gonna own up to it. I'm not going to justify my kids. I'm not going to say they were right when they were wrong. We can go to the Bible and read that people will say what's wrong is right and what's right is wrong. And hopefully some people that are doing that right now in the church, maybe they'll find that verse. Maybe I should have looked it up and put it up there. Maybe somebody would get it. We're seeing too much go off the handles here, off the rails. Everything is against God, and we're not recognizing it. We're condoning it by not wanting to say anything about it. You don't hear what I just said. You won't hear too much in churches. That's my problem with churches. That's my problem. That is my problem. We are supposed to be living and talking about all of this, not the parts that suit people. I don't need to suit anybody because I'm going to have to answer for everything I don't say. When I was raising my kids, I knew I was going to have to answer for everything I did not teach them. So yes, I was probably overbearing. But I'd rather be overbearing and push them than let them fall and let them fail and have me be to blame. And that is supposed to be the thinking for every single one of us when we're talking about people at church. When we're talking about spirituality, it's amazing how we have so many self-righteous people that feel they're holier than thou, and as soon as they're spilling that out of their mouth, they're already sinning. They don't get the Word. They don't get God. We're self-righteous because we don't want to admit our failures. We condone the things that are wrong because we're not speaking up, and we think somehow that's okay. I remember people telling me, well, as a Christian, you're supposed to be neutral. Oh, no, you ain't. No, you're not supposed to be neutral. If it makes them mad, it makes them mad. I made my kids mad a whole lot. I'm still not done in that area. I'm still a parent to my kids. You know, I loved when my kids were here. The granddaughter. Oh, it's amazing. You go to the store, the daughter saying, Oh, Violet picked it out. We have to have it. No, you as a parent should be addressing what your kid needs and don't need. Just because she picked it up and you let her put her mouth on it doesn't mean you should be taking it home. Christians do the same thing, don't we? We pick and choose what we want. We pick and choose where we're going to stand up, where we're going to sit down. We pick and we choose what we're going to fight against and what we're going to just leave alone because we don't want to get involved. When we do not want to get involved, you're not getting involved in being a Christian at that point. When the fight is not your fight to have, you need to rethink things. It is our fight. It's all of our fights. It's not my job to play Mr. Nice Guy. Well, actually, it's none of our jobs. It's our jobs to be the salt of the earth. Too busy, we want to be the sugar. Everybody likes sugar. Everybody has spiritual diabetes. How does that sound? Right? Spiritual diabetes. They're hooked on things they shouldn't be hooked on. We are supposed to be the salt. Some people don't like salt. Some people are going to avoid it. Well, you have to know your ingredients. You got to know what to put it in. We're supposed to be making that spice of life, even in all the sin that we're surrounded by. Somebody's got to speak up and say these things. I don't know why it's not being covered more. People are hiding because when they say things like that, oh, I can't believe he said that. Please forgive me. I can tell when I gave a message that was really off the wall to some people. I can bet they're calling the other person. You wouldn't believe what he said because then we have a lot more views. Like when Christmas and Easter come. Yes, Jeff, I know. We still have to talk about Christmas and Easter. Actually, there's a lot of people we could have talks with, but they don't want to have them. At least Jeff's willing to talk. I got to give you a lot of credit. And Jeff's in uniform today, too. I'm impressed. And he got a haircut. He's not wild no more. You don't match his shirt. We love you, Jeff. We do. Matthew 22. They did not they couldn't be satisfied. They just... Oh, you know what? We can go to Luke in just a minute, my love, if you want to leave that up. Matthew and Mark, chapter 12, say the same things pretty much. The one didn't like that Jesus was able to answer the questions. They didn't like testing him and being a failure in that. But my point was going to be that when we look at that verse, when we look at something that says what that greatest commandment is, it's in Matthew and Mark in one context, and when we read it in Luke, it's a whole different context. First hint I'll give you. It's where we should pay attention when we're reading our Bibles. This whole situation in Luke is completely different. It sounds the same in some ways, but it's not. In Matthew and Mark, the commandment is given by Jesus. It's in red letters. When you go to Luke, it's not in red letters because Jesus did not say it. He asked a man a question. The man said it. So if you look at the color of the letters themselves, if you have a red letter edition Bible, you're going to see something that's different about what was said. We want to pay attention to all aspects of what we're reading. It's the most important thing we're going to read in this lifetime. I don't care what job you had, what your profession was, the most important thing you can read in this lifetime is this book. We're going to go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. In verse 25, a lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? What is your reading of it?" So he answered and said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said to him, you have answered rightly. Do this, and you will live. I gotta love verse 29. Verse 29 says, but he, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? It's almost ironic when you think about who is my neighbor. That's what he wanted to know. See, because he knew he was only loving people that were his peers. Anybody who knows this story knows where it's going. We're talking about the Good Samaritan. Now, before I'm going to cover more of this, because my wife, she has made it so that certain verses are going to be up here separately, which means I can expound on each one of them. She's grown. It's going to help me grow. It's going to help this grow, I think. Because we're trying to put a lot into this. We want to do a good job. As well as everybody here that comes and puts their time in here because they want to be closer to Christ. I just love this. Anyway, back to the message. This is the beginning of the story of the Good Samaritan. Who is your neighbor? Now, here's where I'm going to say something. Here's where I'm going to cover something that I kind of wanted to cover since the beginning of the service. We've all heard it said, do not treat others how you don't want them to treat you. Some people have almost taken that as the golden rule. Some people will say, well, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's good enough. I think we need to transcend that a little bit. What I'm going to say is, see, we're supposed to love one another. Okay, that changes everything, don't it? It changes everything. It transcends everything because we're adding that third layer of it. You see, it was mentioned at different times. I think some people have heard this in different ways and they've accepted it as biblical. There's only one thing that's biblical. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I want to factor something in there. When you're supposed to love other people, when you are supposed to love one another, it changes, I think, things that we would have people do unto us and what we would do unto them. It kind of adds something to that, don't it? It kind of adds. We see, we're supposed to love one another with a holy love, with a pure love. Should that be separate from doing to others as you would have them do unto you? See, people have higher expectations when it comes to something like that. But when we think about this, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But yet we are also commanded to love one another. Okay, let's add them two things together and think about what our expectations should be to people. And then we have in verse 29, and we're going to have a lot of people just like this at church, and people that don't go to church, and they profess God, but live out verse 29 here. They live out verse 29. They justify what they're doing. They're leaving God out of it. This is why he said some people go to church, and they're doing it, and they're avoiding God. This is what it's turned into. When we accept everything else, we don't say anything. We are doing the same thing in verse 29. And who is my neighbor? He was looking for a justification because according to him and the Pharisees, you had to hate anybody who didn't live like you. How many people in church do the same thing? Who is my neighbor? It's someone else that goes to church. It's someone else that thinks like I do. Our neighbors are the people that we like. They're our peers. No. How about who is my neighbor? How about the people living under the bridge up by 75? How about all the needy people? You know, I remember hearing so many people, professing Christians, they see somebody begging and they just find it disgusting. and they think there should be laws against it. They don't want to see them. How many of us, when we're coming outside of a store, depending on who it is, we're thinking, oh, geez, here we go, another one. They want money. And we see, we're not thinking any of this stuff when that happens, are we? We are, at that point, who's our neighbor? I don't know. It's our peers. It's the people in my neighborhood. It's the people at church. It's the people that think and act like I do. Well, guess what? In today's society, no one's going to think and act like we do. And who's going to teach them to do that? It's supposed to be us. We are supposed to be making disciples of all people. And we don't do it because we neglect them. That's a lot to take in. I hope a lot of people are studying this week. Go back and read it. Go back and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You have to add to that. It can't, see, that's not good enough for me. It tells us we're supposed to love one another. Oh, that means only Christians? Only our neighbors? Only the people at church? That's who we love? The people that don't have a place to sleep, they don't count? We leave them out of the equation? Wow, that's pretty self-serving, ain't it? Pretty self-serving. And we're not done. We're not done. I'm not done ticking people off. Hey, if I'm on a roll, I'm just going to keep going. And he said to him, going back to verse 28, you have answered rightly, do this and you will live. But he, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, and who is my neighbor? I hope I've just explained that away very clearly. If you're listening, you're going to get it. If you didn't get it yet, go home and read it. Call me later during the week. Let's go to verse 30. Then Jesus answered and said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. This was a 17-mile stretch, a very dangerous trek that you should not make without a group of people. We know those neighborhoods. We have a lot of them in this country. You know, some places you don't want to go by yourself. Don't get caught. Don't have a flat. I've been to some places where if I had a flat, I was still going to keep rolling. That don't change. This was a dangerous trek for people to make. The man fell among thieves who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. You know, that's typical of what you would see nowadays. So in a three-piece suit, they ain't going to stop. Now, let's put this in today's terms so everybody has an understanding. And you know why I want everybody to have an understanding? Because I don't want us having excuses. We don't need excuses. We need solutions. People, how many people, okay, let's put this in modern terms. Well, if it's a car. How many of, well, actually, it's getting dangerous now, so you can't even stop to help somebody because they will kill you. You can't even stop and want to do the right thing. You know, people make it hard, but we still have to look at this from this perspective. I know that sometimes before I put somebody in my car, I searched them. I patted them down. I did the whole 9 yards. I'm like, you ain't getting my car unless I know you ain't got nothing. So, anyway. A certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. You know why a Levite's mentioned? See, that's one of the people that worked in the tabernacle. That's one of the people that took care of those holy things. It was their job to be in there. See, the priests and the Levites, it's showing a religious sect. That's what that is. We've seen two religious people walk by. And you know what? We know a lot of Christians that would not stop. We know a lot of Christians that don't want to hear what was said so far. I've been to churches where if you're not dressed a certain way, you ain't good enough. Anyway, going further in this, look at that. She's awesome. I got to give you credit, baby. Chapter 10. But a certain Samaritan. Ouch. Ouch for a lot of people on that one. See, the Samaritans were supposed to be people that the Jews hated. They were the no goods. How many people do we hate? I'll get there in a couple minutes here. And when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day, when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, "Take care of him, and whatever you spend, when I come again, I will repay you." He's going to repay him for the man that needed help. Don't hear that too much. Verse 36. So Jesus says, "Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to him who fell among the thieves?" Odd answer. It wasn't the priest. It wasn't the Levite. Let's turn that into a multiple choice question. Everybody who you thought would have helped did not help. We live just around these same things now. The people you expect good things from, you don't get them from. Who is our neighbor? And see, this, and in chapter 17 of Luke, Jesus uses a parable. Actually, chapter 17 was not a parable, it was a true story. When he healed the 10 lepers. When he healed 10 lepers, only one came back. And it was a Samaritan. See, too often, we're looking at things we shouldn't be looking at. Race. Culture. We have all these dividing walls up. And this is on both sides. Trust me, it's not just us. There's other people too. I started something, I'll finish it. People want reparations. I don't plan on paying any. You know how people want reparations for slavery? You know what? If I was going to pay somebody, it'd be those people that are dead already. Just to put that out there. Nobody now, if you want money, go work for it. Get a job. Keep a job. We have too many people that don't want to do that anymore, don't we? They think they should live off the system. They think that the government owes them, even though they hate the government for some odd reason. They hate the government, but they want the benefits. There's people that don't work wearing more expensive clothes than any one of us. Better shoes. They're supplied by the people that do go to work. Nobody thinks about that part. Nobody says enough either. Another thing that won't be covered in most churches today. That'll be volume 77. I'm sorry, sometimes I go off on a tangent. But all these things are true. I have said nothing that's not true. Everything I've said is true. And sometimes even when you go to church, you have the racism, you have the division. You know, this is why I have denominations. This is why we're a non-denominational church, because church politics get involved. And we have a reason to not listen to anybody else. We got to start throwing some things out the window. If we're going to serve God with all of our being, you lay it all out on the table. kind of like I'm doing today. So which of these do you think was neighbor to him who fell among thieves? And he said, he who showed mercy on him. Then Jesus said to him, go and do likewise. Now with what I said before about the golden rule, right? We have in John chapter 13, and actually in Luke chapter 11, right? Where it says that we're supposed to keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. We're supposed to continue at the end of that section there. Verse 13, if you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to those who ask Him? There was another part. John chapter 13.
34.
Did I write that one down for you? Yeah. Good, because I forgot the verses. I memorized so much that sometimes I forget certain parts. Right? 34. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. Well, what did Jesus do? He washed their feet. That was one of the things He did. He taught them for 3 years. Love them as I have loved you. He wants us to love one another. So when we add that factor in to the do unto others as you would have them do unto you, I think it gives a little bit weightier of a responsibility. I think we don't think enough of each other sometimes. I think we don't think enough of other people sometimes. I think we find reasons to fall short and stay there. The other verses that were put up there, Deuteronomy chapter 6. Now this is the commandment, and these are the statutes and judgment which the Lord your God has commanded to teach you, that you may observe them in the land which you are choosing to crossing over to possess. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Therefore, verse 3, therefore hear, O Israel, and be careful to observe it, that it may be well with you, and that you may multiply greatly as the Lord God as your fathers has promised you. What's commanded? You shall teach them diligently to your children, and talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. He's talking about the commandments, which are in Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 6 or 5. I think it's 5. Gee, I'm only a page away. It's chapter 5. How many people live by these, or talk about these, or do what this says? You know, if this was done generation to generation, there wouldn't be such a shortage of people today that believe in God and live accordingly. Last thing I'm going to touch on, because some of you are waiting to go to lunch. Shame on you. Just kidding. Just kidding. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Wow, that adds a connotation to it, doesn't it? It's another reminder. Don't just do unto others what would the expectations be? See, people love to lower the expectations of what's to be expected of them. So then we're not giving anybody everything all that we have in love. We have these walls up that nobody gets in, nobody gets out. We have these dividers up mentally, Spiritually, we have dividers up that, and we love also to hold grudges, don't we? Even though it's a prison to us, even though we're putting bars on ourselves, because at that point, we are not allowing ourselves to love certain people. Now, certain people, we have to admit, and we know some people that were in our circle can't be there. Some people have to be moved outside of our inner circle because the divisions or something other cannot be overcome. So certain people have to be removed. But in all reality, if we're thinking about the past, when we go into a conversation with someone, if we're just remembering the past, we're not going to be able to love them the way we should, because we're counting their faults. The Bible tells us that when you forgive people, at that point, a multitude of sins are forgiven. A multitude is forgiven by what we do. And you know what? At that point, we're forgiving. If I have a conversation with someone that's done something offensive to me, and I remember it during every conversation, and I bring it up, we're never going to be able to move forward, because all I'm going to be thinking about is what they did or said wrong. And every conversation is going to be another useless conversation where we're not able to grow, because I'm going to keep thinking of what they did. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to throw it in their face. That's what we do. Instead, when we have these things, we should be able to say, you know what? I'm not going to remember what they did to me. I'm not going to think about that. You have to give people a chance. Because we want God to give us a chance. We failed Him yesterday. We're going to fail Him today. We're going to fail Him tomorrow. If we're still here, we still want a chance. How about this? If you want grace, give it. You want forgiveness, give it. See, that's what frees you up to be able to love people the way you should, because you're no longer holding things against them. I really hope that today I have expanded the meaning of doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. I hope I've really expanded the meaning of who is our neighbor, who we should love. Yes. Because sometimes we're shortchanged when reading that book. And it's because we choose to be. It's a choice. It's a choice to live by 29, Luke 29, when Ronnie had it up there. When we look to justify where we're at, this man wanted to justify where he was, and it gave him away. I and we do not want to justify where we're at. We want to grow. We want to mature. We want to move forward. We want to be the salt of the earth. That means we give God everything. We don't give Him a place in our life. We give Him our life. We're taught. And this is why I say we've been indoctrinated by the world, because we're taught that, church is an hour on Sundays. Plan accordingly. You've got to give up an hour of your day. Wow. I hope that really affects some people when they think about it. I really hope somebody's thinking, I've been thinking all wrong all this time. Because some of us do. Some of us like it. It's not easy to change. But nothing we want in life is easy. Serving is not supposed to be easy. It comes with persecution. It comes with afflictions. It comes with these things that we don't want. But anything worth fighting for, you're going to have these drawbacks. But you know what? I'd say Christ is worth fighting for. He died for us. He walked a road that we'll never have to walk. He took the punishment that we're the ones that deserve it. See, we forget about that, don't we? It's easy to just remember He was on the cross. What if we were to face the punishment? And how about we walk that out, right? Imagine yourself trying to carry the cross after you've been scourged and beaten. Imagine if you are the one that were being nailed to it. All we have to do is carry it. That's it. Jesus did the rest. There's nothing we can do, but we can love others and we can show others what Christ did for us. We can show other people that love. See, how many people don't feel that love because nobody shows it? Some of us don't want to love because we're afraid we're going to get hurt. You know what? That pain only lasts so long. You love them. You give it a try. Some people you find out, okay, it's take a step back from this one, you know. But for the most part, I wanted to transcend our thinking. I wanted us to be able, I wanted to show, see, we want upward mobility, don't we? We want to be closer to Christ. We don't want to get saved, right? See, if you get saved and you never move further along, are you really saved? And that's what a lot of people need to think about. That little prayer don't get you into heaven. A life change does. With that being said.